Thank you, everyone, for joining us today in this episode of Excel Power Hour Tips and Tricks for Excel Power Users. This is a monthly webinar. Today is November 1st, 2017, 2 p.m. Eastern, and the episode is Power BI for Excel Power Users. We're going to spend about 5 minutes talking about the Excel Power Hour webinar, real quick. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the tool that I use in order to export data from Excel into QuickBooks. Sorry, the other way. I apologize. That's misspelled. To go from, oh, that's right. No, it's from QuickBooks to Excel. Whoops. Apologize for that. Didn't get much sleep last night. To Excel. And the reason for that is because Power BI, it's an Excel based tool, or not really Excel based, but it's sort of database based. And the easiest way to do it is just to get your data in Excel. So that's the concept that we're going to use. Although if you're not a QuickBooks user and you do have Excel data, this information will be useful to you regardless, because you will have some sort of data in Excel. But Power BI, I'll allow Avi to kind of explain that part, can connect to any type of database, Excel, Access, SQL, any type. Most databases are going to be able to connect to Power BI. But we have a tool, I recommend a tool called QB to Excel that allows you to export that. So, and Avi will do about 45 minutes of Power BI, and then we'll leave it for Q&A at the end. So Excel Power Hour is a monthly webinar series. Our website is still under construction, but our YouTube channel would be the vast majority of the content that we create. And we do have a Facebook group, which strongly recommend that you join it so we can continue the conversation, ask the questions, suggest the topics, all those types of things. Myself, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA based out of Miami, Florida. I'm a big QuickBooks user, a big Excel fan. I'm starting to use Power BI, and I'm particularly excited about today's episode. Avi used to work for Microsoft, I believe. I'll allow him to do a quick introduction of himself. His website is learnpowerbi.com. His YouTube channel is youtube.com/Power BI Pro. And there's a lot of free videos there. And he also has Amazon's best-selling book on Power Pivot and Power BI. Now, real quick, before we jump into Avi, I want to talk about the tool that I use to export data from QuickBooks into Excel. And if you type QB to Excel just on Google, you go straight into their website. And let me show you what it looks like. And there it is. And you just click on download, you install it. And then let me see if it's going to run now. Let me open up a database file real quick. Okay, there it is. Well, finally. Okay, so this little tool that runs in the foreground here, it's a tool that connects to your QuickBooks file. Like I said, it's free. It's 100% free. It connects to your QuickBooks file and allows you to quickly select what tables, what data tables you want to export to Excel. For the Power BI demo that we're going to do, I basically exported the entire thing. So I selected every one of these data tables. I picked the specific year that I wanted to do it in for 2017. And then I click on convert, and it actually allows you to export into an Excel workbook and also an Access workbook. And we're not going to talk about the Access part because this is not an Access type of webinar, but this is what I do. I click on convert to Excel workbook, click on convert. It will take about 2 minutes. And what it will do is it will go into QuickBooks and it will download each of the data tables. So your customer table, your transactions table, your invoices table, all of that stuff. As you notice in the background, it's all sort of building in the back end. And that same spreadsheet that you're going to see there when it's done doing the export and the conversion, that same exact spreadsheet, it's gonna be the one that Avi's going to use. So again, for some context, if you're not a QuickBooks user, this is totally okay. You can still use Power BI, no problem. What I'm showing you how to do it from Excel, and then using this as a bridge for the QuickBooks users, for people that use a lot of QuickBooks and they have transaction data there. So then we can do special reports with it. So as you can tell, it does take a few minutes, and I'm sort of doing this live. I didn't time it. I didn't know how long it was going to take. I will be patient though. We'll still let it go. And I'm gonna, right after this is done, I'll show it to you, and we'll move straight to Avi's presentation. Back into the conversion. So what you saw happening here was, and what you're seeing on the screen now, It's one big Excel workbook that contains every single table. It's got the accounts table, the bill table, the invoice table, pretty much all of the data that's in QuickBooks. That's well, most of the data that's extractable via the SDK, which is the software developer kit. It's gonna be in here. So that was just a quick tip on how to get data in Excel and what you can do with it. That's up to you, right? Like if you know how to do pivot tables or graphs or whatever, you can do some awesome things with it. But the twist to this is I'm gonna get Avi to use the same table, which by the way, he just seen it a couple of days ago, and we just had a quick interaction and explained to them what it was. And he's gonna build a graphing model and calculations and pretty much KPIs for us in this next 45 minutes. So Avi, let me pass over a presenter to you. And
All right.
if you don't mind, and by the way, I'll do a quick introduction if you don't mind, Avi. So I've met Avi via online basically, and I contacted him because I saw his YouTube channel, and I said, hey buddy, YouTuber to YouTuber, let's help each other out. Come do a presentation in my webinar. I'll come to yours, and so we're gonna collaborate. So I'll do something about Excel in his. He's gonna come in and do stuff on Power BI over here. So I'm very excited about it. Avi, take over.
All right, terrific. So I will say that that theme that Hector started off with, that hey, here's how to get data out of QuickBooks, that has resonated with me throughout my professional life. And I was a business analyst for most of my career, and the data that I needed always seemed to be locked away somewhere, and I had to kind of jump through hoops to get it in my tool of choice, Excel. And finally, I was like, okay, I could do stuff. But only when I discovered Power BI that I realized that Excel has got some rough edges, and I discovered that Power BI, and the best part about Power BI is that it's by Microsoft, so by the same company, and it works with Excel. It doesn't try to push it away, but it really smooths out all the rough edges. So that's what I fell in love with, leveraging both Excel and Power BI, and that's kind of been my mission for the past few years now since I left Microsoft, to spread this as far and wide as I can. So this is our end goal. So I'm going to pick up the QuickBooks export that you just saw, and we're going to build a dashboard out of it with some KPI, with some metrics. And in my conversation with Hector, we try to focus on some things which were either kind of hard to do in QuickBooks out of the box, or maybe they were just impossible to do. So we would focus on that. And we're going to have two cool giveaways if you stick with us to the end. So you're gonna have a chance to win a copy of my best-selling book. So hang on for that. And of course, there's we're also gonna give you a step-by-step tutorial. So you can only compress so much in an hour or 45 minutes. So what I want you to focus on is simply looking at the tool and thinking about, hey, what's possible? Is this going to work for me? Not be busy kind of scribbling down notes, because we're going to have a very detailed step-by-step tutorial for you if you're kind of getting started on Power BI. So don't worry about that part. And of course, we're going to have Q&A at the end. First of all, how to Power BI, how to get Power BI. Believe it or not, it's built into Excel in a lot of versions. And the get data part you see, and this which says manage data model, those are all pieces of Power BI. They used to have different names, Power Query, Power Pivot. Now those names have gone away, and they kind of blended into Excel. So they're already there. Now, if you do not have the right Excel version, you do not see these buttons, you do not see these, then the easiest route is just go and download Power BI Desktop by going to powerbi.com. So that's let me see if I have that up. Maybe there we go. So you just go to powerbi.com, go to products, Power BI Desktop, and that's going to let you download. It's a free download, and that's the tool that I'm going to be using today. I do prefer it, but you can use either one. You can do this in Excel or use a Power BI Desktop. All right, let's get started.
And Avi, real quick, just remember, we're accountants and we're cheap, so we need to have clarity around this, okay? So there's
free.
Yeah, right. There's a free version of Power BI available to the public, and thank you, Microsoft, for that. Whether you have Excel or not, so if you have a database or an Excel file without having Excel, installed in your computer, you can still download Power BI. Is that right?
That is correct. You
And
do not need Excel.
there's a premium version that costs $10 a month. Can you tell us a quick story behind that just so we understand what that is?
Yeah. So this is the tool that I was talking about for the download, and this is completely free. And yeah, we're gonna use this tool. Now, if you go to powerbi.com, let me show you that real quick. So notice this is within my browser. So you can also upload your reports to a browser, and that is typically for sharing with others. And it makes it really convenient, but for sharing with others, you do have to pay, and that's $10 per user per month. So I think it's well worth the value. But if you don't want to go that route, don't want to put it up on the cloud, you can always just use a completely free Power BI desktop tool and share the underlying Power BI desktop file.
And just real quick before you jump in, the value of putting it in the cloud is that you, as the builder, the consultant, the accountant, whatever you want to call yourself, can create a dashboard and then give limited access to the user, your client, the business owner, so they can only play with the parameters of exploring the data, not so much creating the dashboard itself. Is that accurate?
That's right. They get a limited view, and it's modern, it's slick, it works on mobile, works on tablets, everything, and they can access it from anywhere. And yeah, maybe actually you would set up the refresh. So whatever schedule you set the refresh on, they're always going to have the latest data, and it's going to be really convenient for them to consume without you giving away kind of the underlying file. If you want to keep that to yourself, then yeah, they just get limited access. It's fully interactive and all that, but they don't have the underlying file. You can keep that to yourself.
Go ahead.
All right.
You have to wait for me. It's yours.
Okay, perfect. All right, just want to make sure. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to this one. I'm going to turn off the web. Oops, not this screen sharing. Let's try that again. I'm going to turn off the webcam so you can focus on the content. So this is a brand new Power BI desktop file. I just opened it after installing it, let's say. And first time I opened it, it was a little scary. I'm like, wow, what's this big white screen I'm staring at? But now I see Power BI desktop as an engine. And the first thing the engine needs is fuel. And its fuel is your business data. And that is right here. The get data is the way to connect to it. And if you click on that, you're going to see some common sources. And if you click more, you're going to see a long list of sources. Gosh, there's even a search button here. So a lot of stuff going on, but we're going to stick with the first option, Excel, because that's where our QuickBooks data has been exported. So I'm going to select Excel, hit connect, and learn Power BI, and that is my export. So now it shows me all the tables that are part of that Excel file, and I can click on them to see a preview, and then I can select them to say I want to bring these in. So I'm gonna do here is select invoice line items, and customers. What is that? There it is, customers. And at this point, you can click edit. And if you get a chance, I'll talk about that. That's pretty cool. That's the whole interface, which lets you clean, shape, and transform data. But for now, actually, I'm just going to show you real quick. So if you click edit, one thing we're going to do is we're going to not bring in all the columns. So this might look busy. There might be some columns which would look totally familiar. Some would be system columns which you might not have seen before. But typically when I'm bringing in data with a lot of columns, I do try to be selective, and I say, hey, I only want these columns, and then I can say remove other columns and just load that. So I've already done that. So I'm going to speed things up a bit and switch to that file. Let's go to where the data.
And while you do that, Avi, let me add some context here. So a lot of the folks that are watching this webinar live are QuickBooks users. I don't know if everybody is, but there could be QuickBooks users. And you're bringing in 3 data tables that we're doing for the exercise. You're bringing in what's called the invoice line items, which actually contains every line item from every invoice of that QuickBooks file that was exported into Excel. you bring in the customers table for a particular reason, because sometimes the customer table has information that the invoice doesn't have. Like, for example, if your customer is affiliated with a particular customer type, which is a field in QuickBooks, that will only be in the customers table, it wouldn't be in the invoice table. On the items table that you're bringing in, for example, if we have information like preferred vendor, it's on the item side of the database in QuickBooks, it's not on the transaction side. So we wanted to pivot, or pivot maybe the wrong word, but if we wanted to use data that's sitting on different tables, like the major grouping of items by vendor or grouping of customer by type, we have to bring all the tables in to make references to them. I don't think we're going to do that in this example, but the reason why he's doing it is because this will be best practice, that you bring in not just the invoice table, that you bring in other ancillary tables that contain additional data that's not on the invoice itself.
That's right. So here we had the blank canvas. So Power BI has these three views. The first one is the report view, and the second one is the data view, and the last one is the relationship view. I'm just going to give you a really quick tour. So report pretty much has nothing in it right now, but if we go to the data view, now we can see that the data has been loaded. So we saw the customer, invoice, line items, and items table. And if you go to the relationship table, we have these, and these are connected by relationships. All I'm going to say is pretty much they let you do what you would otherwise do with VLOOKUP, but far more easily. So I'm going to get back here, and I want to start by creating some formulas, because I really believe that that's where the power lies in Power BI. So I'm going to have, hold on, let me just get it set up. Okay, so we have our invoice line items, and we're going to start with our first formula. And for that, we're going to go to the modeling tab, and formulas, they're called measures here. So we're going to click on that and define something really simple, total amount. So that's the name of the formula, and a very familiar sum function. So that's one thing that I enjoyed about Power BI, that it felt like a gentle step from Excel. It was intentionally built by Microsoft that way. It has a lot of familiar functions. You'll find some max, min, average. I'm like, hey, I know how that worked in Excel, and I can use them here too. So total amount, and I'll say invoice line items, item amount. I can format that. So that's my first formula, and now it's available to me in the field list. The field list kind of works the same way as the field list does in Excel when you're building a pivot table. So I'm just going to put that up here, and the only difference is here, instead of pivot table, it doesn't quite have pivot table. It does have tables and matrices, which I'll show you that to you. But in general, you can pick a visualization from here. So you can pick any visualization you want, and I'm going to make this a card type. And let's just make it a little bit bigger, which is, does that work? Nope.
And if you don't mind, after you're done doing that, Avi, just pull up the table again, just so they can see what that 832 is coming from.
So that's coming from invoice line items, and we're summing up the item amount. So of course, this is dummy data. So we're summing up this column.
Perfect. Thank you.
So total amount, great. Let's do total quantity. And we have, so again, simple sum measure. Let's add that on there. Okay, let's just format it. Whole number. Actually, this is a decimal, I realized. Now in here, if you look at the table, this is at a line item detail. So one invoice can have repeat rows, as we see here. You can see the 1005 had different, can have different line items. So we're going to try to get a total invoice count. Now, this is something which was tricky to do in Excel. You could, but not very easily, and because what we're looking for is a unique count. And for that, we have a built-in function in Power BI. So if we say total invoices, I can just use the built-in function distinct count and use the reference number. So I say, hey, just give me a distinct count of that. And I'm going to say that's a whole number, comma.
And leave that open for a second, Avi. So
Right.
the first word there, total invoices, is
Yeah.
you defining, let's call it a calculated field. So you're saying this is the field that I'm going to use that I want you to make a calculation from. Distinct
That's right.
count is like the Excel, like an Excel formula, but that's not an Excel function. That's a DAX
Yeah,
function, which is the language of Power
that's right.
BI. Then invoice line items is the table that is getting it from, and then
Hmm.
reference number is the column in the table that is getting it from. So I just wanted to kind of
That's right.
deconstruct that to some folks to understand why, so they don't get stressed out about like, oh, I have to know all these formulas. So they're actually very logical.
Yeah, and you saw how it auto completes. So I can just type reference and just hit tab. So it's I find it pretty easy to kind of define formulas here. So we got total invoices. I'm going to add that to my simple table here. Okay, we're going to do one more, which is unique customers, which is the same pattern as as we did total invoices, but we're going to say unique customers. And again, very similar pattern, distinct count, but instead of reference number, this time we're saying of the customer ID.
So you're typing distinct count, and why is it auto typing this stuff for you? Because it looks like you're doing it really fast.
Yeah, I was pasting it, but if you were to type it, I typically do rely heavily on autocomplete. So I just DIS, and then I find my function and say distinct count, and then if I know the column name, you can just start typing in the column name, and it gets that for you. Or if you want, you can start with the table name, and then it shows you all the columns inside, and you can find that one and just hit tab and complete it that way.
Thank you, because that seemed really fast when you were doing it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let me switch back and show you kind of the level one results. So I have a few more here. You saw me do total amount, total quantity, total invoices, unique customer. I threw one more in there, which is a line item count, just a aggregate count of, we're counting every single row in invoice line item. So that's that measure. So you saw that this was not that hard. Again, I mean, when I switched to this, the first step like this I felt like I was on solid ground from Excel. But even with this, it's pretty amazing what you can build and accomplish. And I love that part. Now, Hector talked about calculated fields. And I, of course, I have used Excel for many, many years, pretty much throughout my career. Somehow I never got to do those. But I believe one key distinction in here is that once you define these, you can use and reuse them in any number of graphs, charts, reports, tables, whatever you are building. So now that we have these measures, so I call this, so again, these are called measures. That's just the name that Power BI has for these. I think of them as formulas in Power BI. So these measures have the magic of you define them only once, and then you can use them everywhere. So I have used the same ones. Actually, let's just do a quick graph. So this is how we would go about building it. So I'll say, yeah, show me total amount, but now I can grab something from the calendar table, and I can say, show me by, let's just try month. Show me by month. That didn't sort right. How about we do a line chart? Still doesn't sort. Let me fix this sorting really quick. Okay, take it back to this. Oh, messed up the sorting. Got it. So you can say, show me total amount by month. What about, and if you wanted to say the same thing, total amount by, I think the one that Hector mentioned, the customer type. Let's try that. So I'm going to change this to a pie chart, and we're going to add type in there. Maybe too much. There we go. So you get the idea. I find that this is really, I felt at home. This felt like building a pivot table as I would build in Excel, and I'm clicking and dragging, except that this part looks different based on the visual you have chosen. So if I choose a simple table visual or a matrix visual, you can see that this is more similar to, this is the closest that you get to an Excel pivot table, which is the matrix visual right here. So you see rows, columns, and values. But otherwise, the fields look different based on the visualization you have. But that's all you have to do. You have to, it's kind of like going shopping with a shopping cart, right? So you say, oh, I want this, and you just drag and drop and build it from there. So this is what I have built. Again, I didn't write another measure after that. All my measures or formulas were already defined, and I just used them to create different charts. This one we already had. This one is showing total amount and total quantity. This one is showing by class, which is coming from invoice line items. Great. This is by billing city. I tried a map visual, but this business, Rock Castle Construction, is pretty much in one spot. So that wasn't much fun. So I left it in area chart. So again, you have the fields and you can select the visualization you want. And here we have a simple total amount kind of by trend, by year. And here we have top customers, top items. And again, I'm just using the measures that we already had, nothing more.
Can we, Avi, sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Can we try a filter like if you to only show me customer, like the same thing that we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
for a particular state, for example. I think the state is one of the fields that is in there.
Yes, absolutely. So let's try. So there are a few ways you can do filters. One is uh, where you add it as a slicer, and of course that's a familiar concept for Excel. So if we go customer, I can actually the state is, I'll pick it up from invoice line item, and I'll say billing state, and I just drag it on here. And it does try to choose a default visualization, which I'll admit I'm not a huge fan of, but then you can change the visualization here. And one of them is slicer right here. And once I change that, notice that it shows, we just have two in this case. What is any? I don't know what any is. Nebraska?
Nebraska, that's right.
Okay, great. So we have California, and you can click California, and the whole graph kind of shifts to California, or you can say any, and well, we're not doing much business there. So you can do it that way. It also has cross filtering. So imagine if instead of this, let me make some more room here. I said by billing state, give me a graph of total amount. Oh, well, that wasn't such a great example, but instead of state, let's try class. There we go. So now we have class, and now you have this one is new construction, this is remodel. So any graphical element is also interactive. So I can click on new construction, and the whole display shifts to that. So notice the top numbers, those are the easiest ones to notice. And that's true for really any element in here. So I can click Bayshore, and everything else will filter down to that, and so forth. So the interactivity is built in. And yeah, sometimes that's a great plus when you're trying to dig in, like, oh, well, what happened in August? And you can just click August and see exactly what's going on. All right, let's keep going. What do we got next? So next, I want to write some more formulas. And this is where we went and thought, then what are the kind of things that are maybe a little hard to do in right out of QuickBooks. So the first one we're going to try is average amount per invoice. And we talked about measures are the magic in Power BI. And one thing I love about measures is once you have defined a piece, you can reuse that. So to say average amount per invoice, we can just say, well, what is the total amount? And then just divide it by total invoices. And that's it.
Avi, let me add something. Just want to make sure that there's absolutely no confusion about this because I'm getting some questions in the box. the first thing that you're typing, the
Yeah,
average amount per invoice, that's not natural English that BI is detecting. That is a variable that he's defining. He can call
yeah.
that whatever. He can call it Hector,
hmm
right? And as
Yep.
long as you understand that that's what it means. So this is not a
Yeah,
formula. This is not language that you have to know. Like someone's asking me, how am I supposed to know where all these things are? I'm like, no, you're defining the field, and then next to it, you're doing calculations with the data in your table. So I wanted to clarify that.
that's
I'm
right.
sorry, because it could be confusing if that wasn't understood from the get go.
Sure. No, that's good. So we got average amount per invoice, and we can now see that in our table. And let's see what that looks like. So it looks like it's 7,111. Okay. Let's do one more.
Avi, while you're at it, since you have that measure already, so we can see something a little bit more practical, can you do a
Yeah.
table next to it that has the customers and the
hmm
average the average amount per invoice by customer? And you should be able to do that with a
Yeah.
table real quick, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we just add customer name, and yeah, it's like adding things to your shopping cart, and we already have defined it. And again, that's the magic of Power BI. You don't define the formulas again and again. Once you've defined it, this is it. And so you can see by customer name, average amount, and of course, this is a table. You could do a graph. You could use any of the other customer attributes, state or a company or whatever type, and you can sort it. You can say, show me top 5 customers. So yeah, you can go to town with that. So we have that.
Avi, absolutely amazing. Can you, sorry, can you do an
Yeah.
example of like sort of a pivot table style? Like use that same table, but then
Uh-huh.
split it off by classes. So do a
Yeah.
classes in front of the customer name.
Let's try that. So class. So I'm going to build a matrix, and let's zoom in. So
But
this is the
have
closest
it
you
show.
get to a pivot
Yeah.
table.
So sorry. So in
Yeah.
QuickBooks, there's no control over the data. So there's going to be stuff that doesn't have classes, and that's what that is.
Yeah.
That has no class.
Got it. So here, new construction, I can say, okay, new construction is this, and I can right click and drill down, and now it shows me kind of all the customers. I can drill back up, and I say, okay, now I want to see remodel. Now, of course, one thing you can do if you have time, we'll try to show that, is that you can also connect a regular Excel pivot table to this. So if Power BI doesn't kind of do your thing, you're like, no, I just give me Excel. You can do that as well. But again, the key message here is that once you define the formula or the measure as they're called here, is define once, use everywhere. So you can use it in any. So I can have this as a table. I can have this as a graph here, and I can even drill down in here. So I can say, remodel, drill down within that. Okay, and just click on a customer and maybe have more detail about that customer. The once that customer is clicked, show me the specific order. So let's try that. So if I say, give me the item they bought, give me the date they bought, and give me the item amount, right? So you get the idea here that we started off here and we said, okay, I want to look at remodel and I want to look at Vasquez, and you can see the specific orders they bring in. So you can, once you have the right measures defined, then it's totally up to you and what your requirement is. So for the sake of time, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Now you saw me define this average amount per invoice. Pretty similar to this. Let's look at that measure again. So this was just total amount by total invoices. And again, this part is a name. Thanks, Hector, for clarifying that. And here, I'm simply reusing the formulas that I had already defined. So total amount goes here, total quantity, total invoices comes here. So similarly, you can define average. Let me just show you kind of the cooked example. So I'm going to do the chef trick. I put it in the oven, and 5 minutes later, you take it out, and it looks like this. Let's go over here. So here we have some new measures. We have average items per invoice, and you can see that simply, how many items total were there divided by total invoices. And we have one more, which is invoices per customer. And again, this is simply reusing existing measures, which I've already defined. So I say, hey, this is total invoices divided by unique customers, which we built using the distinct count. So you saw me do a little bit on the fly. Here is kind of what I came up with yesterday. So I kept some of the graphs earlier, but here you have average amount per invoice, and you can graph it by month here. By the way, when you're looking at Power BI, it has a lot of interactive elements. You already saw that I can cross filter, which is I can click on a month and everything else filters down to that. I can also kind of pop out and focus more on that. So this is our trend for average amount per invoice. August clearly was a great month. And then average items per invoice, this has a different high. In November, that was the highest. So again, once you have the formula, once you have the measure defined, you can slice and dice it pretty much using any of the fields available to you in the model.
And Avi,
Yeah.
that was awesome presentation, by the way. And guys, just so Avi's using data that he's never used before. Avi doesn't use QuickBooks. Like it's my job to teach Avi QuickBooks now. But yeah, so
All right.
he's looking at this from the pure perspective of building analytics with raw data. If you guys are using QuickBooks or whatever data you're using, if you understand the data, as you build these reports, they make more sense because you start connecting with it. Because right now, this is just numbers and graphs on the screen. But if it's your data, if it's a client that you're managing or you're doing this for your own business, you start connecting with the information and start discovering really neat things about your business or start seeing it in a different perspective. Avi, let me ask you a question. If I'm building a report for a customer, let's say I'm a consultant, an accountant, what's the best way to deliver this? So is it just like an Excel file or a PDF file, or
Yeah.
what do you think is the best way to deliver the reports?
Well, so the the cheapest way and the least effort way is the Power BI stores as a PBIX file, and you can send this to them or share it through Dropbox or whatever. They would need Power BI Desktop installed. Again, it's completely free. You can just go to powerbi.com and download it from there, but your client would need to download it to be able to open it. That's one option. Another option is that you publish it on powerbi.com, and doing that is pretty easy. All you have to do is pretty much click on this publish button. It might ask you to sign in or sign up for the first time and share it from there. So once you have published it here, let's try. Let me show you real quick. So we'll say,
So
I just want to show
publishing
you.
means you're sending it to the cloud somewhere and giving someone access so they can view it on the website, right? Do they have to sign in
That's right.
anywhere, or
They
is
do.
it a open URL, or is it a URL where they have to log in?
No, they would need a login, and this one is gonna need pro account for both of you. You're gonna have to, so powerbi.com, it lets you sign up for free, but once you start sharing, you have to go pro, which is $10 per user per month. But if you have that set up for yourself and your client, then you can just come in here and click share and send it to them. Just type in the email address and they'll get it.
Oh, interesting.
And
Both users have, like, the
that's right.
person publishing and the person using it has to pay the $10 a month, or it could be under the
That's
same
right.
account.
No, I mean, you can set up the account for them. I sometimes do that. That's one approach you could do. You could set up their account and just have them use it. So pay the $10 on their behalf, essentially.
Okay. Otherwise, if you don't want to pay the $10, just send a PDF or
Send
whatever.
the PBX file, yep, Dropbox it, whatever, however you want to share it. Just and the only hiccup is they would need the first time they would just need to install Power BI Desktop, but then they'll be all set. Whatever file you send them, and another one. So of course, one thing is that I don't know if it's a risk or something, but if you send them the PBIX file, I don't know, they might kind of figure out exactly how you're doing it, and they might say, oh, I can hit the refresh myself by exporting. I don't know if that's a scenario. Would you be concerned about that, Hector, with
Avi,
your clients?
the reality is that KPI building is not really what most of our clients are sort of
Yeah.
into, and there's
Hmm.
always new things. I think one of the cool things about this is that this kind of opens up the possibilities of what you can do, and it could potentially change the behavior of how person enter the data. Because one of the issues that we've had with, especially with QuickBooks users, is because we can't really get the data out, we tend not to really pay too much attention to adding more data fields.
Uh-huh.
But,
Yeah.
but now that we start seeing that we can absolutely get everything in whatever format, in whatever calculation, people may be pushed to enter more data fields. So if you're a consultant working with a client with a PBI, I think you will, especially if you stay on top of your game and you learn it really well and you understand it and you start and you have a not just for the software but for understanding metrics. Like what are we measuring and what for? Because measuring for the sake of measuring does really nothing,
Yeah.
right? So like without understanding, look what insight would be useful to my client. My client has a retail store and he has data about how many people walk in the store. Something like, what's the close rate? What's the average ticket per person that buys, average ticket per person overall, whatever. Like I'm just throwing things out there. But yeah, once
Mhm.
I think that the consultant and the report builder has to also think about what data could be pertinent to my customer. And as long as you're on top of your game, I think you will always have business whether the customer learns how to use it or not.
Good point. Good point. All right, so I'm going to show one last thing, and then I think we can move on to questions. So me and Hector were talking about this yesterday. I was like, hey, customers, what if I want to see, hey, which customers have made purchases above a certain amount versus below a certain amount? So for that, I'm going to go to the invoice line items, and here we have the amount field. Now, this is not the item amount. This is the invoice amount. So I'm just going to right click on this and say new group. And that opens up this dialog box. And I want to say I want to group at every $5,000. So it's going to, kind of bin it from 0 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. I'll show you the visual and then it'll make complete sense. So I say hit OK. And that one is done. Now I have this new field here. So now I can take my unique customers and slice it by that grouping. So, and I can say data labels. So I can now see here that, these many number of customers had invoices from 0 to 5K, and these many number of customers had invoices from, 5K to 10K and so forth. So, yeah, it's just one of those things which is really cool to do. And let's see, I had a detailed graph here. So here I've done something else, which Hector talked about, which is I've filtered it to last 12 months and it'll update automatically. It'll always show the last 12 months. And here you can see if I select 15K, these are the customers. You can see they ordered different items, but the invoice amount was above 15K. And these are the 10K. And well, look at the high roller here. It's just one order there. Okay, so I'm going to stop there as far as Power BI. Let's go back here.
And Avi, I want to do some questions if you don't mind. So
Sure.
if
Yeah.
the end user wants to use an iPad
Hmm.
or a tablet,
Yeah.
how would that work?
Oh, that is super easy. You go to PowerBI.com and it has apps for Android and iOS. And yeah, you just, Windows as well. But yeah, they can just download that app and it works beautifully on the phone. It just renders it out. Oh, well, yeah, you can. I'm glad they put screenshots in, so you can get an idea. Yeah, it looks quite pretty. It looks quite pretty. It has alerting and so forth. So that's pretty easy to do.
Okay, another question. So let's say, for example, that we're going to use Power BI connected to QuickBooks
Hmm.
using whatever ODBC, let's call it, um,
Hmm.
and we're publishing it to the web, and the business owner, a client, wants to get the data refreshed. Does the web version connect via the internet into your server that has the data somehow, or will I have to push or sync the data manually before someone on the web can? I don't know if I'm asking this correctly, Avi, and you know where I'm getting with it.
Yeah, you can refresh it manually. In some sense, that's easier. So the way what you would do is come in here and of course export from QuickBooks or whatever you need to do, hit refresh in Power BI. So just hit this button once and it's going to run through the refresh. And when you're done, you can hit publish again and it's going to update the most recent version. You can also set up refresh on the cloud version. So you can see it has the schedule refresh option. but sometimes that can be tricky based on the data source you're connecting to.
Okay,
You would need
that makes
additional software, something like a Power BI gateway to connect to the right sources, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it out there. So for QuickBooks desktop users, there's something called QCube, QQUBE.net if you want to check it out. It's a $450 software that installs in your desktop. .net.
Okay.
Yeah, .net. And so for QuickBooks desktop users, you click on QCube technology in there. So you buy that software that's $425, and what it does, Avi, and I haven't told you about this, but what it does is it creates a data warehouse of your QuickBooks data on a, let's say on a separate database, and it's refreshing every hour or so, whatever you program it to, and it also it downloads all the tables, all the relationships, and also creates new calculated fields. Yeah, and so
Mhm.
when you actually use QCube to get the data and then Power BI to build the report, you would have a much more depth than you having to do. Like all these calculations that you made, like average ticket item, all those things are pre-made with QCube. There's like 800 or something fields already pre-built. So QCube is really meant for people connecting QuickBooks to Crystal reports or to a pivot table or to Access or to it's the perfect link from QuickBooks to something else. And the combination of QCube and Power BI, it's just really exciting right now. Now, in terms of QuickBooks Online, if you don't mind, can you open up? If you don't open up your Power BI desktop software again,
Yeah.
just go to it. If you actually go to Get Data, if you click on Get Data, go to more and search for QuickBooks. And there's a beta version of the QuickBooks Online connector, which would allow you to get the data from QuickBooks Online into Power BI. I've played with this. I can't figure out how to use it. I think I think it's beta for a reason. Maybe it's
Uh-huh.
alpha, but just so you know, there's someone in Microsoft and QuickBooks trying to figure out how to get this to work. So I'll also be pretty exciting to get it done with QuickBooks Online, because QuickBooks Online's reporting scheme is horrible. Plus, it's automated; like you don't have to do refresh or sync or anything like that. Avi, we only got 5 minutes left. I would love for you to share your YouTube channel, your content. You know what is out there for people to learn for free and learn more about BI, and then also you have a course that you have invited me to join, and I joined it. I started taking it, by the way. So Avi gave it to me for free. Thank you. Actually, he hasn't done it, but I'm putting him on the spot for him to do it.
Yeah.
um, but I did get the bonus, the free one that he's about to give out, and I'm really excited to learn this. I know it's going to take some time, but yeah, talk about that, Avi, if you don't mind. And I think you have to give someone a free ebook or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'll show you a little bit about what has been kind of my life goal. So I teach this course, Learn Power BI, and I've been teaching Power BI for a long time, but this year I completely focused on teaching it online, and it has a core curriculum right here, Learn Power BI. This is and it's divided into 6 modules, and I focus on kind of the core concepts. It starts off with a kind of an overview module. Come on. And then I focus on different elements in Power BI, the query editor, relationships, DAX that we saw today, visualization, the PowerBI.com platform, and all of that. So that's kind of the course. We also do, so I love kind of interacting with my students. So we have built in as much of that as possible in this course. There's a Facebook group, and Hector is a part of that. So you can see, yeah, Hector is right there. And that one has a lot of discussion going on there. And besides that, we also do a weekly Q&A call. And the third thing which I have inside the course is that I've been building, I get so many good questions from my students, and I wanted some place to kind of document that and put that. So we've been building a bonus library based on all the good questions that have come in the class, and they explore somewhat deeper topics. So the course enrollment opens only during specific periods. Next one I might do in December. But what I've done is the first module of my course, the Zero to Dashboard, that one is available to you, and I've had really good things said about that from users. So you can grab that if you go to learnpowerbi.com/bonus, And if you go do that, I'm also going to send you a copy of this file that I was working with today that I was showing you. I'm going to send you the finished file so you can, take your time to kind of examine look at the measures, look at how I've done different things and so forth.
And you were gonna give a free ebook to someone.
That is right. Let's do that. So for that, I'm going to ask a simple question. And if you were paying attention, you should be able to answer that. And the first person who gets it right gets the ebook. And the question is...
Hang on, they have to answer it in the questions box.
That is right. Just type it in. Just type in the response there. And the question is, to be able to calculate the unique customers, I used a specific DAX function, which is not available in Excel. It only lives inside DAX. What was that function called? Okay. Boy, these guys are fast, quick on the trigger. Quick on the draw. Amazing.
Steve Charette was the first one to answer it. So I'll give you his email address so you can send it to him. Steve, thank you. He was the first one to pop up on my screen anyway.
Okay, terrific. And I wouldn't mind hanging back for more questions if there are. So I don't know, Hector, how does it work? Do we cut off in an hour? Can we stay on for questions if there are any?
We can stay. So go ahead and somebody put something / yeah. Good try. I'm if you stay for a few minutes, we can do it. Let's see what we got here. Someone says, is this being recorded? So it went a little bit too fast. The answer is yes. So I'm going to go ahead and post that into YouTube.
Yeah, and I'll also say that the Learn Power BI bonus, if you go there, that one is really step-by-step towards a video. So that one has a lot of detail. If this felt fast, that one is, of course, you can pause it, slow it down, speed it up, whatever you want to do. It also has example files that you can work through. So that would feel the right pace.
Someone says, I don't know the answer to that question. That's why I desperately need the ebook. Hint, hint.
Yeah, you can buy it. Of course, it's on Amazon. If you just search for Power BI, that's the first book that pops up. I would request that if you go to my site and buy from there, then you would be directly supporting me instead of Amazon. So if you just go to learnpowerbi.com, the book link is there so that you can get the ebook from there as well.
So same price, right? Okay. Same price as Amazon?
Same price as Amazon, but it's better than Amazon because Amazon, you get only the Kindle version. But in this one, you get the Kindle. I'll just show you. You get the Kindle, you get the PDF, which you can keep on your computer, and you also get EPUB for iPad. So
how much
same price as Amazon.
How much is it?
It's $14.95.
$15?
Yes, $15. Yep, same on Amazon. And I never get tired of doing this. I go to Amazon.com and search for Power BI, and it's the first one, except the sponsored one. Ignore the sponsored one. Okay. So
perfect.
But so
I don't see any more questions, Avi. I think that
okay, terrific.
Yeah. Do you also answer questions via email or just via the Facebook group?
Oh, Hector, you're better than me, man, at this. So if you go to my channel, Power BI Pro, I try to run a live Q&A session every Friday. And well, one is this Friday and one is coming up next Friday. So yeah, that one, you just hop on and I'm there to answer any and all of your questions. Of course, if you subscribe, I also keep putting up new content. This month I've declared to be finance. So me working with Hector was a great coincidence there. And I will be, let me share, I will be putting up, where did that go? Yeah, I'll be working through a finance dashboard, which I will be covering. So again, if you go to youtube.com/PowerBI Pro, there's the live Q&A sessions, and of course, you'll see the new videos.
So Avi, thank you very much, man. That was much. I mean, Avi used to work for Microsoft for how many years was it?
6 years.
6 years. Were you on the Power BI team or?
No, I wasn't, and maybe that was a good thing. So I was always a user of Power BI. I was always kind of a business analyst, and I stumbled onto Power BI pretty much like anybody else. And at that time, my scenario was I was working with data which was more than 1 million rows, and that's the reason I started using it. But then I realized that it has so much more to offer.
And how did you get into training? Like, why did you get into training, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So So I often talk about where Power BI is life changing for business users, and so I have seen the world in kind of two perspectives. There is the IT and business side, and for IT, Power BI is maybe a better, faster way to do things. Some of them are not convinced, so they're sitting on the fence over there. But for a business user, I feel it's life changing because some of the things you saw, which it lets you do, define relationships and not have to worry about an army of VLOOKUPs, not write a whole spaghetti of formulas. So it was, yeah, I mean, it really changed my life, and it felt like I had this burning secret inside me, and I had to share it with others. And yeah, so I left Microsoft, and yeah, I've been on the road since then, working with companies, online training, YouTube, all of that.
And you're an independent consultant, right? You don't work for Microsoft. You're not sponsored or paid by Microsoft. None of that stuff.
Yep, I work for myself. My number one goal is to simply help as many people as I can. I keep my students, so anybody who enrolls for my paid program, they're at the top of my list. But right after that are all of my followers on YouTube and through my newsletter.
And I see you wear the black shirt and the yellow tie and the Power BI. Oh, I got my QuickBooks shirt on. Yeah, so we're like we're
Cool.
independent consultants, but we're brand evangelists. It's so funny. I call Avi the Hector of Power BI, and Avi calls me the Avi of QuickBooks. So it's actually kind of
Yeah,
funny.
that
So yeah,
that that's
Avi,
that's
really
that's
appreciate
great.
it. Really appreciate it. We'd love to do more things together. I like to really understand. I need to know, like, I need you guys to email me, Hector at GarciaCPA.com, and tell me, what intrigues you about Power BI, for the target user that follows my work, which are mostly QuickBooks consultants and accountants and some Excel Power users. Tell me the type of things you would like to see so I can run in by Avi to see what can we create. Avi and I can always make time to do some free content, but obviously, I'm sure there's some more advanced content that you would have to get into and buy, right? Because we have to eat, right? So I live and breathe QuickBooks with the purpose of getting folks that want advanced stuff and pay for it. I don't have a class like he does, but I would encourage you to get into it. At least watch the free videos, get the free program, and I'm helping Avi as much as I'm asking for him for help because I think there's a humongous potential on using this tool, which is very scary, but once you start using it, it's not so scary. And the
Yeah.
impact that this can have in your customers, if you're an IT consultant, not an IT, but I would say like an accounting consultant or a finance consultant, and you're giving this uber visual, easy ways to see data to your customers that causes them to do things differently and better, or maybe you want to nudge them to make a decision just because you did this awesome presentation. Plus, you can really up your fees. Like I'm already thinking about, giving my clients a really premium option that gets them these custom reports as part of my service. And as I learn Power BI, and I'll probably be hiring Avi for personal consultation or some of the more complicated projects, I definitely see tons of value there. So Avi, thank you very much. I'll wrap up the webinar and then we'll chat later. I'll send you the email of the person
Sounds
to
good.
answer the question.
I'll just say one last thing, and what you said really resonated with me. You talked about upping the fees, and one of my mentors told me that, Avi, I mean, there are two ways to make an impact. You can reach more people or solve bigger problems. And yeah, so if you solve bigger problems for your customers, you are worth more.
Uh,
Right?
all right. Thank you, Avi. Okay. So
Thank you.
we'll resume the next episode on December 6th. I don't have a topic yet. It will be obviously Excel power user type of tricks. Email me whatever you think the next Excel topic is. If I should do a version 2 of Power BI, maybe I would love to do that. Maybe I could do that one on my own. Let's see if I can learn the tool. Email me your suggestions for that. Upcoming webinars I recommend tomorrow, QB Power Hour. We will have a T-sheet. I'll do a presentation of timesheets for QuickBooks Online, and then we'll bring in T-sheets to specifically talk about the scheduling module and the kiosk module, and that's an awesome tool. Then on November 16th, that has the wrong date in there. I haven't had much sleep lately. Yesterday with Halloween and all the candy, I went to sleep like at 3 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so 2 weeks after that, after tomorrow, so that it'll be the third Wednesday of the month. Enterprise expert. We will do another topic, and we'll do some time tracking deep dive with QuickBooks Enterprise. So we're gonna do. So it's funny. We're gonna do a time tracking deep dive with QuickBooks Enterprise, and we're gonna do a QuickBooks Online tomorrow. So we'll go back to back on that. And then on at 4 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Actually, you know what? Sorry about that. I'm talking. I'm not concentrated here. This is not happening. I'm gonna be at QB Connect that week. Never mind. The next webinar is tomorrow's webinar, and then Small Business Power Hour on November 22nd at 4 p.m. I have a guest speaker to talk about Instagram, and we're going to talk about Instagram and Snapchat as a social media platform for small business marketing. So kind of all over the place with all these webinars, trying to figure out what what sticks here. Okay, stay connected. Join the Facebook group. Just search for Excel Power Hour and continue the conversation. Then, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email me. And that's it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next month.